Jocks 94.5, Damian Mitchell alongside Conrad Van Order on, I guess we'd say the last final score Friday of the fall season in 2024 football. Because this is the last show we'll have before the Super Bowl on Sunday between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. And y'all know how we do it on Final Score Friday. We don't ask for any kind of breakdown, but yet people still, let their opinions be known. But all we do is ask, what do you think the final score will be for the Super Bowl? Who you got winning? Chiefs, Eagles, you send in your scores. And we just have some fun with it on Fridays, and it's a lot of fun. We had the NFL honors last night down in New Orleans, and I remember as I was listening to the Three Man Front yesterday, and there was a question about a certain quarterback if he's a Hall of Famer, and it was a unanimous decision from the guys and Molly from the group that one Eli Manning will be a Hall of Famer, and after last night, we still have some time to debate it because he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer. But I've tried to stay as upbeat as I possibly could about it. It's just I never really thought that Eli Manning was a Hall of Fame quarterback. But I mean, if you look at his career, 2-time Super Bowl champion, 2-time Super Bowl MVP. Of course, it does. Those two things stack up. But I think when you look at Hall of Fame, it goes into an account for your entire career. And I do think that he played in the era where his brother was there, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees. The list goes on. But when you look at the two biggest moments of his career, you can't tell the story of the NFL without those two moments because he slayed the giant in the New England Patriots, and something that his brother couldn't do on a consistent basis. Eli beat him on the biggest stage of them all. So I always give him credit for that. But I think that the whole first ballot thing, it's kind of like baseball. It's like, as long as you get in, I think that's all that matters. But I never really felt that the entire career that Eli Manning was a Hall of Fame quarterback. And we could still have that debate for another year or so because after last night, he didn't get in. But that wasn't the biggest thing about the NFL honors. We have all the awards. We have the MVP, Coach of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, Comeback Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, and Offensive Rookie of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year. And when it looks like this, there's a lot of SEC presence. And with some guys that we saw, early on in their college careers have gone and made, big impacts in the NFL in the early stages. So just starting with the Defensive Rookie of the Year, Jared Verse, defensive lineman for the Los Angeles Rams. You look at his beginning to his career, he definitely made an impact. And I think even when he was drafted, he was a second round pick. But he did have the first round capabilities when he was there at Florida State. We all knew it. We all saw it. But he ends up getting Defensive Rookie of the Year. Offensive Rookie of the Year, to nobody's surprise, quarterback for the Washington Commanders, Jaden Daniels. And when you just look at where he was drafted and, they were taking over new ownership, new head coach, new offense. They were just basically cleaning house and letting this new regime come in and take over. And Jaden Daniels stepped right in and made an impact. So now we get to the Player of the Year awards, and Defensive Player of the Year, somebody that we know extremely well here in the state of Alabama because of what he was able to do with his impact there as a Crimson Tide, for the Crimson Tide. Patrick Surtain ends up being the Defensive Player of the Year at cornerback, which is difficult to do. But ever since he's been on a football field, you can look and tell that, yep, he's every bit of a dude's dude. Like, he is somebody that you would rock in the foxhole with. You would want him to be out there guarded with the best receiver and just say, hey, this is where it goes. But Patrick Surtain, in his fourth year in the league, ends up being Defensive Player of the Year for the Denver Broncos. And Conrad, I know that had to make you smile as a Crimson Tide alum and a Crimson Tide fan to see him continue to have this success as he gets into the NFL.
Yeah, no, he's been one of the best cornerbacks since he came into the league, and so it's nice to see him getting some recognition for that last night. And, like you said, it's been a while. It's 2019 was the last time you had a defensive back that won the Defensive Player of the Year. So it's been pretty much a pass rusher award here for the last 5 years or so. So no, I mean it's big time, and it's just one of those things where it's almost like the MVP race, right? If you have somebody that's not a quarterback win it, you kind of have to go above and beyond at your position, whether that's running back, receiver, whatever, to really get consideration for awards like this. So it just shows you kind of how good he is that he was able to hold off all the great pass rushers in the league. And yeah, he had an excellent year. It was a great year for Denver, really all around.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of starting to start that resurgence there. But no, it's good to see guys like Surtain having a good year in the NFL and finding a lot of success.
Absolutely. And then we go to the offensive player of the year. Eagles running back Saquon Barkley. And if you're a New York Giants fan, I'm sorry, I guess, because that could have been you. Or at least you could have had him for another, for however many years and paid him, out the wazoo. But you decided to settle with Daniel Jones. And all he does in his first year in the Philadelphia Eagles uniform is, one, find himself on the brink of history. Decided to sit out the last game because he wanted to make sure he was healthy for this Super Bowl run that they're on. Goes over 2,000 yards rushing. And he made the running back position really hold weight because it felt as though for a while, Christian McCaffrey when he was healthy, Derrick Henry during his time as Tennessee, and Saquon Barkley whenever he was consistently healthy, you knew that they were the top 3 running backs in the NFL. And now to see him, change teams and get better through it all because he was already great when he was in New York, but he even found another level playing with a winning organization with the Philadelphia Eagles. He finds himself in the Super Bowl this Sunday. And then on top of that, he wins Offensive Player of the Year in year 1. And I think that was, nobody really has much of debate that he was probably the best offensive player in the NFL.
No, and and it's one of those things where, again, like hindsight's always 2020, but I go back to certain years in college where after the national championship, you kind of look back and went, maybe that guy should have won the Heisman after all. And look, I'm not saying I don't have a problem with who ultimately ended up winning MVP, and we know it's going to be a quarterback. 99% of the time, but I I think you could just make a very, very strong argument for Saquon being the MVP and what he's
Yep.
meant to that Eagles team and getting them to a Super Bowl. And that's absolutely no shot at Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson because they're incredible and had incredible seasons. But again, it just is always the debate that will go on forever with these types of awards of, all right, are we really looking at the most valuable player on their team, or are we looking at statistically, who had the best season at a certain position and things like that? And I certainly think if you look at it from a what player meant the most to their organization this year in terms of elevating them to a different level, I think you could clearly say Saquon. And I know they were in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, but let's not forget last year was certainly a down year for the Eagles, and there were a lot of concerns that, oh man, are they really going to be able to keep this thing together? Nick Sirianni was on the hot seat, and there's just a lot of uncertainty. And now you bring in a guy like Saquon, and he absolutely goes off, and you find yourself back in the Super Bowl. So, yeah, great offensive player of the year. That's essentially the best running back or receiver of the year award at this point. But
Yeah,
you know, better than nothing.
absolutely. Comeback player of the year, Joe Burrow, quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals, of course, coming back from injury. Not just, I'll put it like this. If he had a defense on the other side, there's no telling how good the Bengals could have been because all he did was go out here and lead the NFL in passing. And you look at some of the people he was going against, kind of thought it was going to lean one way, but then you realize, like, no, we're talking about just strictly on the football field and his impact. And Joe Burrow coming back from injury, he just went out there and did what he needed to do
See,
individually.
yeah, and look, I love Joe Burrow. He's great, incredible. But see, the comeback player of the year for me, like, all right, we're giving it to a guy that got hurt, that was amazing, got hurt and came back, and he's still amazing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, in my opinion, I guess I just feel like comeback player of the year award is more for somebody that, maybe you just kind of have that standout season. It's almost more of like a breakout player of the year kind of thing. And maybe they should just make an award like that. But
Right.
essentially, it's just, if you ever have a superstar player that gets hurt one year and then comes back and is healthy the next year, they're going to win the award, right? Like, that's just how it works. And so, I get it. Like, and I'm glad that Joe Burrow came back and had a great year, but I don't know, maybe somebody like, I mean, look at the year that somebody like Baker Mayfield had, right?
Right.
Like that's the kind of situation that I look at and I go, oh man, all right, you're somebody that's like, all right, you've been solid, whatever, but you just, blew everyone's expectations away and you had the best season of your career by far. And, that's the kind of people that I think should be winning that type of award.
Yeah. Now as we move forward, NFL honors last night. Coach of the Year, Kevin O'Connell for the Minnesota Vikings. And I think he was
No
well
problem with
deserved.
that.
Exactly. Because again, you lose your potential franchise quarterback, JJ McCarthy, due to injury, and you're working with Sam Darnold. And again, no offense to Sam Darnold, but nobody really expected them to compete in the NFC North with everything that they had going against them offensively, because of the fact that, who was going to throw the ball to Justin Jefferson? That's all it really came down to. Who was going to throw the ball to him? And then you see how good of a season and how
win
the
14
narrative
games in the hardest division in the
NFL
with Sam Darnold as your quarterback.
Exactly. And just to see the resurgence for Sam Darnold too, and have a head coach that gave him so much confidence, like, oh, I really still got it. Like I'm not a washed up quarterback in the league. No, I still got some good years left in me. And he put it all together for them to compete and have a chance. I mean, they made the playoffs. Now, did they have the greatest performance? No. But they still had a chance to win. They still got a chance to win 14 games in a season that you thought was going to be kind of a transitional period of just, okay, Sam, can you keep us above water for a while until J.J. McCarthy becomes healthy next year? But now there's no telling what Kevin O'Connell was able to do. And just particularly talking about Sam Darnold is now the message about Sam Darnold is he still has it. So if you're a team that's on the fence about, oh, maybe we may not rock with our quarterback that we have here, can we rent Sam Darnold for a year and expect him to have the same thing that he did for Minnesota? But also, if you're Minnesota, it's like, okay, well, why?
You're in a tricky spot, right?
Yeah, it's like, okay, why would we end this if we see that he still has it in him? And if JJ is still not ready, he's still young, let's not force him out there, because Sam hasn't done anything to necessarily lose the position.
Yeah, I take back what I said about Baker and nothing. I mean, he had a great year. Sam Darnold absolutely should have won Comeback Player of the Year. The fact that he didn't win that is actually that slipped my mind for a second. Yeah, that's asinine. Because again, it's like what Geno Smith a couple of years ago with the Seahawks, right? Where you're just, okay, let's be honest, Sam Darnold has not had a good career.
No.
Now, in terms of longevity, yes, he's had many opportunities, but in terms of his production, he has been a bad quarterback, just like Geno Smith was a bad quarterback until 2 or 3 years ago. And, that's the kind of stuff where, again, nobody saw that coming for Sam Darnold. He had been floating around as a backup in different spots. I mean, remember, speaking of Baker, 2 years ago, Carolina had Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. Yep. Those were their two quarterbacks. And now you saw what those two guys were able to do on their own individually. And so, yeah, all the credit in the world to Kevin O'Connell. I think he's a great head coach. And you saw how good that team was with Kirk Cousins there.
Yep.
And to be able to continue that success and in some ways be even better without him and with Sam Darnold is remarkable. But yeah, the fact that Sam Darnold didn't win Comeback Player of the Year, that's ridiculous. No, he's not as good as Joe Burrow, but we all knew Joe Burrow was amazing, right?
Right.
Like, it's not a comeback. We all knew he was going to be great.
Absolutely. And then the most important award of them all, the MVP. And it felt as though for a good bit of the season, it was just a two-man race. I mean, if you want to say Saquon was in there, but a lot of people know that when it comes down to the MVP, it's a quarterback's award.
He got a lot of votes, just not in the first place category.
Exactly. But a quarterback does take home the MVP for the first time in his career. Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen is the MVP of the 2024 NFL season, just edging out Lamar Jackson. And I think, if for everything that he had lost in 2023 going into 2024, it was, all right, if Josh Allen is where we think he is, can Buffalo stay above 500? And not only did he do that, takes him to an AFC championship game. And then during the regular season, it was you could tell if whatever Josh Allen's decisions were on that football field were a direct reflection of how the game was going to end. If he wasn't at 100%, if he wasn't locked in, if he wasn't, performing at a high level, the Buffalo Bills suffered. When he was on, the Buffalo Bills looked like one of the best football teams in the league. And I think when you look at, his ability to run the football, it kind of felt as though, similar to the Cam Newton situation when he was in Carolina, they didn't mind running quarterback power if they got inside the 10. They would line it up and empty and say, we want your linebackers to hit number 17. If they can stop them 4 times out of 4 times, so be it. But I do think his overall impact, again, with all the receiving changes, adding Amari Cooper to the mix in the middle of the season, developing a young Keon Coleman. When you look at Shakir, who was, I didn't know who he was, ends up leading, the NFL in yards per catch. So I look at everything that Josh Allen was asked to do for his team. He had the most impact. And I do think that Lamar Jackson, even with the addition of Derrick Henry, had a phenomenal year. But Josh Allen, I can't really knock him for what he was able to do, because he was working with what he had, and he was the best thing offensively for that Buffalo Bills team. And again, if you look at the reflection of the season, it all went through what number 17 did.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it either way. I might, if I'd had a vote, I might have gone Lamar, just barely over Josh Allen. But again, we're splitting hairs in that one, and I think part of it too, we've talked about this here recently, is Lamar already has 2 of them, right? And so I think part of it is some people go, okay, well, this is maybe Josh Allen's year to win it. But you bring up a great point, and maybe that was kind of the deciding factor was, while James Cook came along and had a really, really good year for them at the receiver position, even with you trading for Amari Cooper, he never really came along the way that I think you were hoping he would. And, it was essentially Josh Allen playing hero ball. Yep. A lot of games this year, and it was working for him. So he had a fantastic year. I'm not going to complain about that one way or the other. I think they were both plenty deserving, but it was the closest MVP vote that we've had since 2003, when you had co-MVPs with Steve McNair and Peyton Manning. So that just kind of shows you how grueling the process was, though. But real quick, just kind of interesting here. So these are the top 10 vote getters for the MVP. Starting from the bottom, you have Baker Mayfield.
Okay.
He got a couple votes. Sam Darnold got a couple votes. Jamar Chase, he was the highest rated receiver. Then you have Justin Herbert, Jaden Daniels, Patrick Mahomes at 6. And then your top 5 was your boy Jared Goff.
Yeah.
For the Lions there at 5, Joe Burrow 4, Saquon 3, Lamar Jackson 2nd, and then Josh Allen came in 1st. So congratulations to Josh Allen. Very much deserved for him. And maybe that, maybe that helps a little bit with the fact that you're not playing this weekend. I'm sure you would. I don't think he's Cam Newton. I think he would rather be playing in the game on Sunday than getting the hardware last night. But no, good for Josh Allen. Can't be mad about that. Absolutely.
So the NFL honors were last night. If you got a chance to watch that, I will say Snoop Dogg was a very fun MC for the most part, and I like the little joke he had with Bill Belichick's.
I was about to say, what'd you think of Bill?
it was cool. Him and Deion Sanders being on the stage together, and him kind of loosening up a little bit. Kind of, he's got a little dry sense of humor, but having a little fun.
I just wonder how many times on the red carpet, she got confused for his daughter. But
hey, could you and your daughter turn around for a picture? He just kind of looks, and I can only imagine some of the words that came out of his mouth, but.
They looked quite dapper last night. It's just kind of shocking sometimes when you see the pictures and you're like, oh, yeah.
Right. Hey, Bill's making no bones about it, though. He got you one, big dog. Hey, more power to you. I was unfamiliar with your game. I knew what it was on the football field. I know what you can do as a coach, but off the field, all right, big dog, I see you.
Yeah, man, money talks.
It does indeed, and his is hollering. His is absolutely screaming. I'm interested to see what it's going to look like in North Carolina when he starts going to frat parties and sorority parties and stuff. We'll see what it looks like. Should be fun. Should be fun to see. Well, we did have the NFL Hall of Fame inductees for the class of 2025. We'll get to that. And also, Final Score Friday, 205-834-9450. Your text message, your calls, always welcome. What do you think the final score of the Super Bowl Sunday? What do you think is going to happen? Do the Eagles win? Do the Chiefs finally go into absolutely dynastic, I guess you would say, conversation with the three-peat? We want to hear from you. 205-834-9450. Keep it locked right here on Morning Jocks and Jocks 94.5.